Hi, welcome to the Cupcake Fox channel. My name is Namu, and today we're going to be building a tiny castle home. This lot originally comes in the Windenburg town, and it was the Havisham house, but I destroyed it and decided to build this little castle here. It is pretty much the ideal location for this tiny castle home. Because there are all the castles in the background, there's a river right next to it, and the neighborhood is pretty large, so there's a lot of places for your sim to walk around and explore and meet people. And it just looks really brilliant when it's in here. I spent a lot of the time working on the outside of the house because the exterior was the priority for me. I wanted it to look nice and to look like a castle, and that is what took the most of the time. The inside too carries on that sort of like old fashioned theme, but it was not as hard to build by far as the exterior was. So I'm putting in these glass roofs, and that might seem kind of weird, but the advantage is that when you are on the inside, if you hit tab in the game, you will go into like a first person perspective, and you can look around your house, and you can use like Q and E to go up and down and look around and zoom in and out. And when you're on the inside of this building, you can look up and see through the ceiling and look right up at the tower that's there and look up at the bedroom loft without actually invading anyone's privacy, because I do use a lot of these stained glass windows, so you can't see too well inside of them, and it just looks really interesting. And even up in the bedroom, if you're like lying in bed, there's a skylight, which now that I think about it might be really inconvenient, because how are you supposed to block out the light? If it gets sunny, you just can't take an afternoon nap at all. Perhaps I should have put in one of those beds that had like the sheets over top. But oh well, it's there now, and I really did enjoy looking at it. And it's probably healthier to sleep at night anyways. Unless you have to sleep during the day, in which case this might not be the house for you. So I work for quite a while on the exterior here, and even once I think I'm done and I start thinking about furnishing on the inside, I'm not actually done, and I find that I have to rearrange all the walls again because I needed to make room for a staircase, and I forgot to think about that at all. And also I needed room for a bed, so definitely that little tower, the square one up at the top, is going to be changed for sure. The floor tiles that are on the right side, those stone black tiles, those were on the lot when I got here. I bulldozed the lot, and so they disappeared, but I made sure to put them back because I actually like the way that it blends in with the stone pathway that's around it without actually being exactly the same as the stone pathway that's around it, which I think that stone pathway that surrounds this whole area that the Sims walk on is actually a terrain paint that we have access to that we can use. So it is nice that we can replicate it if we want, but I decided to just go with the aesthetics that the original builder of this house, the developer, had made, and just put a castle right up next to it. I thought that looked really cute. And also I used those tiles all over the house, those stone tiles, because it matches fairly well, and I imagined that this castle was built a long time ago, even though I don't think they built tiny castles for people to live in. I just am pretending. And so they kind of used what tiles they had to, and they built the foundation of the house, which isn't risen, but they like laid down the stones so that you could place furniture on it essentially, and so you can build on it. And so they just went with what stone they had, and that was just those square tiles. That's it. Now I think about that too, that's not very realistic either, that they would have perfectly square tiles, but I like the way it looks, and that was my idea for the design. The fence there, that actually took a really long time to get it striped like that, so that there was a pillar between on every unit, but then I couldn't make that blue color match the wallpaper that I was going for, so I had to destroy it. So it only exists here in the video. If you buy the house, you can't actually get the tiled fence unless you wanted to build it that way. I like this wallpaper a lot, but I actually have no idea how it's supposed to be used. If I had any better idea about architecture or about older style architecture, European architecture like this, I would know how it was used, or like where the wood paneling makes sense and where it makes sense to just kind of use the stone. But unfortunately, I don't have any further knowledge on that, so I just kind of put it where I thought it looked nice, that whether it was like a diagonal piece of wood or a horizontal one, if that makes sense. There are 2 doors into this building, the one that you see there and the one that I place here. The one on the side is actually the front door, and the one in the front is actually just it's just a fake entrance for some reason. I really did want a door to be there. I didn't want it to not be there. I like the way that it looks in the thumbnail, and I like the way that it looks even inside the building. I really like having that door there. It looks kind of cute. I'm just planning out the garden right now. But I go into live mode and then I lock it, and it is not to be used by me. If you want to use it, you might just have to, if you download the house and you want to use that side door, or like, well, it's technically, it is the door at the front, but to me it's a side door. If you want to use it, you're going to have to rearrange the dining furniture, because it is, I believe that furniture will be in the way. Also, if you do download this castle, you have to put on move objects on, I believe, because I used that the whole time. But I don't think it's game breaking, or I don't think it's home breaking if you don't turn it on, because I've loaded this lot without move objects on and nothing disappeared and nothing went wrong. I struggled with this exterior of the building the whole time because it was important to me that it looked really cute and that it looked castle-y, if you will. But I am glad that I took the time to do it, and I even add like a little garden, and I add a lot of plants, which I don't normally do because I'm not very interested in gardening, but I have become more interested in it since I've been building in The Sims, because I don't actually have to interact with the plants in order for them to look nice. And that's kind of what creeps me out about plants, is the bugs, and the bugs, mostly in the plants, they creep me out. I do put a hipped roof here. It doesn't make sense to put a cone on top of a square area, so I raise a hipped roof and put that there. I don't keep that. Instead, I add like a little wall decoration to put on top of it. And I like the way that looks better. I don't know why I like the way that looks better, but I don't know. Maybe you guys can decide. It's not hard to put in a hipped roof and raise it up, but we'll see it. But I remember thinking that I liked it much better with that. It's like a window decoration, but I put it up on top of that little tower. I did want a window there, but I didn't know how to make it happen. And this is not the window that I went with. I don't keep those panels there either. That's not going to stay. None of these, this is all pretty rough. Now, I do a half wall here where at the end of the stairs so that you can sort of see the bottom of the stairs. And I think this is reminiscent of like my childhood home, where there was a landing. So you walk up 3 steps, there's a landing, you turn and you walk up the remainder of the steps. You can see the bottom steps up to the landing, but you can't see most of the stairs. And I like the way that looked, but unfortunately in The Sims 4, there is no way to kind of make a mid-level floor and have stairs going up halfway and then going up the other half. So now what I'm doing instead is putting a little half wall so you can see some of the stairs, but not all of them. And that's only where where there's not enough room, I guess, to have the stairs out in the open, and I don't want there to be a railway. Railway? That's not what I mean. A railing. If I don't want there to be a railing, I'll just surround the stairs by walls. I don't usually make stairs without walls or a railing. That makes me worried about people falling off of them, even though I've never seen a sim do that. So, this is unfortunate, but I think it's because I have seasons installed. I can't actually see the color of these flowers. It says pink, but they all look brown to me. I don't know if that's because they're actually brown, but I'm pretty sure it's because they're out of season. I don't know why, like, the vines have pink flowers and the bushes are not pink flowers. So I'm disappointed in that, but I am happy to have seasons installed. I just wish I could see what kind of flowers they are. And this is spring too, so I really don't know when those flowers are supposed to bloom. or if this is what they actually look like. If it is, then that's fine. But if they get to be a more vibrant pink in a different season, then I'll be pretty happy. If you're just playing with Get Together and base game, this build only uses packs, or only uses objects from the base game and from Get Together. So if you're just playing with those two, you might actually see different color flowers than what I am seeing. Not in this video, but like when you play it, if you decide to download the castle. I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely wrong. See, those flowers are definitely out of season because they're supposed to have many colors and they're all just this gray. So I don't know if when it becomes a different season, if it'll suddenly become way too tacky and you'll have to like take away some of the flowers. I hope not. I hope it's pretty. I'd love to see the flowers in full bloom. I don't know what to do. I guess I could play until summer. I even tried to see if my sim could water them or something, or could hire a gardener, but there wasn't anything. Because I so rarely work with plants, I didn't even know those wall-crawling flowers were there. So I put up those flowers on the side thinking, oh, that's pretty, and you get some blue flowers in there for a little pop of color. But then I realized that these stained glass windows cannot be opened, so it doesn't really make sense to have the flowers there because they can't be tended to, at least not from the windows. So I took them away. I usually prefer to have things in the game that the Sims can actually interact with, and if it's like flowers that they can't even view because the windows are stained glass and they're all barred up, then it doesn't make a lot of sense for the way I like to play the Sims. So I use this, I became really fond of that stone at the bottom, the rocks at the bottom there in the bottom half, and then plain stone up above them. Or is that just a wall? Did I like put just a regular wallpaper on the outside and it's not stone? I imagine that it's stone. When I look at that and see like the different texture on it, it makes me think that if you touch the walls, it's rock. Which makes me think that it'll be pretty cold in the winter, but that's just how castles are sometimes, I think. How they were. I do put in some rugs in there so that at least in the seating area by the TV, you can have your feet on a rug instead of on the stone cold floor. But the dining table doesn't have a rug under it. Here I am fiddling again because I decided I didn't like the hipped roof up there. And you'll see that window decoration like I had talked about. I liked having many towers, but it didn't really make a lot of sense. It was just a weird decoration. It was a little bit too tall for my taste. I tried chimneys. I tried a whole bunch of things before I find this little rooftop. And yeah, I do like the way that looks. I think it's cute. Here I am again furnishing the inside here. This kitchen gets a lot of work done to it because I try to make sure that there's enough space. I like that. I like to imagine that there's a little gardener outside. If you are listening to this instead of watching it, then probably my narration makes no sense. I'm not really forming coherent thoughts and I'm just kind of going with whatever's on the screen at the time. So, and I know that I do that sometimes. I'll just put on a YouTube video and I won't actually be looking at it the whole time. Sometimes I'll have something that I have to do. So if somebody reacts to the screen, then I come running back to the video to see what they're reacting to. Yeah, I've been using more and more plants lately. There's one house that I built recently where I put in just a ridiculous amount of plants. And that kind of forced me to like plants a little better, to think more creatively about how to place them and how to use them. I decided to go with a very small TV in this build because, not just because of a space limitation, because you can probably fit a bigger TV in there if you want to, but I like to imagine that the people that live here they're really dedicated to like this castle aesthetic, and they're specifically living here because they want to live in Windenburg and because they want to live in this like cute tiny castle. Because it's not really practical to live here. The sink is kind of farther away from the kitchen, and the rooms are kind of small, and the bedroom is definitely very small. and it's probably cold in the wintertime. So this family that lives there, and there can only, like, there is a double bed, and both sides are usable. I did play test it, but you can't really, like, you can't have kids here. You can probably actually entertain a fair number of people, but there's not a lot of seating right now. You could add more, but I didn't want to. But while you can probably host little parties and stuff like that, it's really not the most convenient place to live in. And if you've ever lived in a really old house, I've only like house sat really old houses, like heritage houses in my town. They're cold, they're creaky, the doors are kind of weird. Not everything always works all the time. A lot of them had basements and they would flood, and you know how much I hate flooded basements. So anybody living here is probably very dedicated, is like a fan of the European architecture and of castles, and just wanted to like live this sort of, not fairy tale, but not quite medieval either, but just live in this kind of setting, and that's the dedication. There I am putting candles near wood structures. Feels great. I liked building this little bookshelf. I thought it was pretty cute. I didn't want it to be all symmetrical like that. I know there's some color swatches that I can make the books, I can change up the books a bit, but I knew that I wanted some books to be kind of off tilted. I accidentally took a screen cap there. So I like the way that this ended up instead. I'm hiding the second bunny inside of the other books and part of one book inside of some other books. Pretty easy. You have to really, you don't see me do it here, but when I play tested again, the dresser there is in the way of the bed, so I had to move the bed back and the dresser back. They're not moved back here in this capture, but I did go and play test everything and make sure that all worked, and I had to move the bed around. It is moved now, so it should work. Now onto the bathroom. It is a very simple bathroom, but it does have everything that you need: a shower, toilet, and sink, and even a bath, which when you look at how small this bathroom is, it's kind of crazy that it does have a bath. I wanted to use that towel from Get Together. I recently did a base game only build, $1 million mansion base game only build, and so I was like, oh, I get to use like a whole nother pack in this build. Take advantage of that, use all the Get Together stuff you can. But when the aesthetics just called for a base game item, I just went with that. I love that these street lamps match the other street lamps in the neighborhood. Sometimes they don't always give you all the objects that you need to make your house blend in, but in this case, in Windenburg's case, I had pretty much everything I needed to blend in with the surroundings. And this little area here is just a nice little place for them to play chess, and I also put down an easel, hoping that, you know, maybe there could be some use of that for the Sims that live here. They might love to paint the beautiful surroundings. They might be quite inspired. And with that, it is pretty much done. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to go into captures now, and I hope you enjoyed this build that I made for my fucking YouTube channel.